Sessions Cafe with your host, Keri D. Singleton.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sessions Cafe. I'm your host, Keri D. Singleton, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming Ramel Nealy to the studio. Welcome to the show, brother.
Man? How you doing?
Good to have you in the studio. Great jersey.
Thank you.
Great jersey.
Got to represent New York.
Go Knicks. Go Knicks. Go Knicks. So you're an author. You have two books. Two books. Congratulations.
Thank you.
As an author myself, I salute a fellow author all day. Let's talk about How to Beat the Streets. Was that your first book?
That's my first one.
Let's talk about that. What was it like, first and foremost, right? When you're writing the manuscript, you're in a moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when the physical copies of the book, like we have here, when you get that first shipment, bro, I cried. I slept with my first copy of my book in the bed, wanted to enjoy the smell. What was that moment like for you when you first got your first printed copy of How to Beat the Streets?
It was an amazing moment because my daughter was right there too.
Oh, wow.
And we ordered a bunch of copies, author copies from Amazon, and the box was right there waiting for me at the door.
Yeah.
So I couldn't wait, rip open the box. She helping me. We pop open the box and we looking at the cover, and she's asking me those questions like, "This is your book?" I read to my daughter all the time.
Yeah.
So she was like, "You wrote this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I wrote this. This is that book, you know." And I'm getting excited. I'm looking at everything. I'm making sure everything is right. But that feeling was just one of the greatest feelings ever, man. And the reason why I wrote this book, it was because I wanted to leave something behind to all the students I've ever taught. You know, like every time I leave a school and I transition to another school, I see that look in the kids' eyes like, "Oh, you leaving?"
Right.
And I used to always just feel like, "Damn, man, you know,
Right.
I got to do something for these kids. You know, I need to leave something behind. So just in case I do have to transition to a different job, here you go." So it reminds me of that moment when I got the book. I'm like, yes, I finally did it. I have something that, you know, in case I have to leave this place, this school, this program, here you go. How to Beat the Streets. That's what I did.
I love it. So obviously we're going to talk about the fact that you're an educator. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the book specifically. So How to Beat the Streets, what is that about? Give me a synopsis of your very first book, your debut book. What is the synopsis behind that?
So How to Beat the Streets is 9 key principles that I use to overcome everything that it takes to, 1, outgrow your environment.
Right.
2, escape all of the gun violence, all of the gangs, you know, everything that's going on in the community. I grew up in Harlem. I grew up in the Bronx. My father from Brooklyn, East New York.
Right.
So I'm no stranger to, you know, the dark side of New York City.
Right.
So me, you know, getting to where I am now, I had to make sure that I leave 9 key principles that any kid, any young man, young woman, young adult, you know, that can read and understand. Here you go, 9 key principles that you can use to overcome everything that it takes to just outgrow your environment, outgrow the circumstances and everything that comes with growing up in urban America.
So of course, what are those 9 principles?
So the first one, the wise learn from mistakes of others. That's my favorite chapter because it's like, there's so much education just in our community. This is my mom's ex-boyfriend. He took care of me after my father passed away, and he got sentenced to 25 years in prison.
Oh, wow.
And I'll never forget this. In middle school, I went to go see him, and he said, "Ramel, look around. We on the dance floor, visiting room." And he just
the dance floor. That's
what he used to
prison
call us.
term for the visiting room. Yeah.
So he told me, look around. He said, "Look around, tell me what you see." I looked around, and I said, "A bunch of dudes in jail."
Right.
And he was like, "No, you see a bunch of men that you can learn from." And he started pulling different people to come talk to me, one by one. "Yo, come over here. Look, he 18. Tell him what you did. Yo, look, he's 60. Look, he Jewish. Yo, he Indian. He all different kinds. He was in the feds." And I'm just soaking in all of this. And he said, "Before you leave today, I need you to understand the wise learn from mistakes of others." So I had to start the book with that, because once I got back into my community, it was like eye-opening. I'm looking at the gangs. I'm looking at, you know, even some of the homeless people on the street.
Right, yeah.
You know, you just even speak to them for a minute. How did you get here? Oh, I started doing They can't wait to tell you that story. So the wise learn from mistakes of others.
Right. Wow.
Chapter 2, self-love. You know, I think growing up, I used to always look at the guy that they passed the gun to. And it was always something about that guy. And it was always the fact that he had no love for himself. And that's why he was always happy to be like, yeah, I'll hold it. Yeah, I'll carry it.
Wow.
And self-love is powerful because once you start to love yourself, there's a lot of things you're going to start saying no to.
Amen.
You know, because it's like, no, I'm better than that.
Right.
I'm greater than this. So you got to have that self-love. And then 3, we call it the real education. The real education is a gumbo pot of K through 12, you know, what you learn in school,
right.
Financial literacy, what you learn from your family, what you know about knowledge yourself, and that's what I call a real education. It's not just K through 12, it's a mixture of all of those things.
Right.
And then we got Stoop Kid. Stoop Kid, you got to get out your environment.
Stoop Care.
Stoop Kid.
So for those of us that don't live in New York City that are watching this show, of course, most New Yorkers live in buildings with stoops, a stoop porch, different, you know, I want to make sure everybody's clear.
And here's my analogy, because if you ever watched the show Hey Arnold, it's an episode called Stoop Kid.
Okay.
And they like, Stoop Kid's afraid to leave his stoop.
Right.
Stoop Kid's afraid to leave his stoop, because the young man literally physically didn't want to leave his environment.
Wow.
But the deeper message in that was he was afraid to just see something different. He was afraid to like get out of his norm. And I took that and flipped it into a chapter, because when I went to college, my roommate was a white guy. Shout out to my roommate, man. He taught me a lot. I came to college, I got 9, 12, 10 pair of Jordans. I got Pele jackets. I got Mermots. And this dude came with one bag.
One bag.
One bag.
Right.
And I'm the guy from the projects.
Right.
I'm the guy who grew up in poverty.
Right.
And then he taught me something. He's like, yo, you don't need all this stuff. You need a jacket and your textbooks.
Right.
And I was like, you're right, man. And then through our relationship, I learned so much. Like, he haven't even met someone that got shot before.
Right.
He didn't know anything about running after a party and being in those type of environments.
He didn't know anybody that ever been incarcerated.
No. And this is the guy that's, my bed is here. Right. If y'all know about college, I'm here and he's here, but we from 2 different worlds.
Where was he from?
He was from
Do you remember?
Upstate. I think it was Schenectady.
Schenectady, New York. Okay,
Yep.
so a smaller
I went
city,
to school in Buffalo.
probably a very rural area. Okay, so 2 different peas in one pod, and you came with a satchel full of clothes that you couldn't afford, and he just came. That's
just
telling.
Being himself. And he had everything, you
Right.
know, like as far as life, you know.
Correct.
And I just learned so much in that year, and that's why that was me leaving my stoop.
That's
because once I went to college, I was like, oh, okay, this is a whole different playing field.
Wow.
It was a lot of diversity. It was a lot of people that was like me, because I was always knowledgeable. I always loved education. I always did great in school. I just needed to be in an environment like that, where I'm not the only one, and now I could be myself. I could be comfortable being a young, educated man, and now it was an amazing experience. So that's Stoop Kid.
Let me ask you a question. At what point did you realize, Ramel, that there was something very wrong specifically with that picture, specifically with you having all of those clothes and being from the projects in New York City, and the other gentleman, your roommate, you know, coming from a better environment, certainly economically, and having very little physical things, tangible things that he felt that he needed to lug with. At what point did you really realize something's wrong with this picture?
Right there.
Right then and there.
Right then and there. Because we just kept having these conversations, and I'm like, he was the first one that mentioned the word trust to me. You know, now it's getting, you know, financial literacy is getting more popular now, but he was the first one that mentioned like, oh, my dad got a trust for me. So just in case this college thing don't work out, my dad is gonna leave me a bunch of different things, but he said I have to finish school.
Wow.
So it was like school was like, it was like a breath of fresh air I could breathe.
Right.
I just left a lot of gang violence,
Right.
like people coming to my neighborhood shooting it up, and so college was like, I could breathe.
Yeah.
For him, it was like, man, I'm just trying to make sure I could get this trust from
Right.
my dad. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
It's
I
a
had to
requirement for him.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
I'm
it
like,
was a
what's the
vacation
trust?
for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when he broke that down, that whole experience just elevated my mind, and it showed me like, okay, this is the place I need to be, and I'm never going back from this point. And I also started to, you know, little by little, switch over my character, elevate how I present myself, and just started learning the right way to navigate as a young black man.
Yeah, man. Okay. That was deep. We got more chapters to talk about. Proceed, brother.
Okay, and then we could talk about the. I mentioned Stoop Kid, so. Okay. I love my last chapter. My last chapter is let me see this real quick. Boom, mentorship and paying attention to your circle.
Mentorship.
Yep, so mentorship, boom. I'm a part of a fraternity called Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Shout out to all the Omega Psi Phi members around the world. Mentorship changed my life. So I joined the fraternity when I was a junior in college. And that was the first opportunity for me to be around older brothers who was doing great things. Cops, lawyers, judges, and working in the banks, running schools. And the one thing we all had in common was we all came from the struggle. We all went through similar things. You know, some did have 2-parent homes and some did grow up in a wealthy community, but a lot of us came from the same African-American experience. So that was the first time where I started to see young men that already graduated, bachelors, masters, fathers, they own their homes, and I have a table at the seat now. So being in that organization,
you have a seat at the table.
I have a seat at the table, and being in that organization allowed me to now dwell with my future.
Wow.
So I'm looking at them, and I'm like, okay, if I graduate, I can do this, I can do that, and then I can ask them questions. So I had to write a chapter about mentorship because mentorship is what changed my life as well. You know what I mean? And remember, I'm talking to all of the students that I ever taught. So these are the things I'm like, okay, if you want to beat the streets, you have to do these things. So in that chapter, I'm just explaining the power of mentorship. It's happening right now. Just talking to people can open up a lot of doors for you. And then I ended it with pay attention to your circle. My mom used to tell me this so many years, you know, and shout out to the mothers, man, because it's like, if you just listen to your mother, you got the keys.
Exactly.
They give them the way the game at 7. They just waiting for your ears to catch up to what they got going on, you know. So she always told me, you are who you hang around. So if you start hanging around with these guys, from a block away, all we see is a bunch of gang members. You know what I mean? They can't tell that you just was on the honor roll, that you just graduated yesterday. You got the same hoodie on, you got the same sneakers on, you got the same jacket, y'all all look the same. So pay attention to your circle. And I wanted all the youth to know we can control who we hang around. You know what I mean? Just because this is my neighborhood, if I don't feel comfortable hanging around these people, I could go find some people that's just like me. How do you know when someone is just like you? Because when you're around them, you're going to feel comfortable. The conversation is going to flow naturally. You don't have to hide who you are, you know what I mean? Because you're going to be comfortable being around them people because they just like you. You know what I mean? And I knew this was happening when my father passed away, you know, due to gun violence. So when I seen some of my friends playing with guns, my heart was racing. I'm like, oh, nah, I know what that's about. But I ain't want to be called soft. I ain't want to be called the punk. So I just like, I had the knowledge, but I was just like, all right, cool, I'll walk with you. You know what I mean? I'll go with you to the store. And even when I started driving, it was days where, yo, you got the car? Take me over here. I knew that was bad, and I knew it could be a conspiracy, but I still made those decisions because I wasn't hanging around people that was like me. I was on the honor roll, you know what I mean? But this is where I was from, and I still did things that I wasn't supposed to do just because I was trying to be around people that wasn't like me. So pay attention to your circle.
Pay attention to your circles. And I want you to pay attention because we got more from this brother when we come back from this break. We'll be right back. And we're back with Ramel Nealy. Now, let's start with this, man, because you're an educator. We've gathered that much. You're a teacher, right? First of all, how did you get inspired to become an educator?
That's an interesting story. So I went to Buffalo State University, and I was a criminal justice major. I just wanted to learn about law and learn about crime and things like that. And my guidance counselor, who we built a great relationship throughout my time in college, she was like, "You always talking about giving back. Why you want to get into law enforcement? By the time you get to them, it's going to be too late." You know? And she was like, "I know this program called Teach for America," and I'm like, "But I'm 3 years into criminal justice," and she was like, "I know this program called Teach for America. They take people who don't have a background in education. And as long as you don't have a background in education, that's the qualification.
Wow.
So I was like, same thing. I'm like, wow. I'm like, you funny for even, knowing how to flip that on me. So she told me about the interview. She told me about how to apply. I applied. And fast forward, I'm at the interview. I had to do a demo math lesson. To me, I make music, I perform and things like that. So teaching reminded me of the same thing. I'm on the stage.
Right.
They had like mock students, which was adults. And I'm doing my thing. I'm teaching. I'm making jokes. I'm comfortable up there. And they like, yeah, you're natural.
Wow.
What you want to do? And they gave me the contract. They gave me the offer. And the beauty of Teach for America is you can pick which state you want to teach. So they give you they give you a list of 12. And you might get your top 3,
Right.
Okay. So for me, I'm from New York City. So, I had Miami, I had California.
Yeah, you want to go
all these
where the palm
with
trees
the beaches.
are at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
New York City was like, no lie, number 10 on my list.
Okay.
2 weeks later, I'm in my dorm room. I get the letter, acceptance letter. Welcome to Teach for America, New York City.
Wow.
And I'm like, come on, New York City. And I called them. I try to just see. That's number 10. You ain't seen it 1, 2, 3, 4. And
didn't see the priorities?
They read my essay. That you had to write an essay. You had to send your grades, transcript, do the live interview. And they was like, everything that you said points to you going back to your community.
How did you feel about that?
In the moment, I'm trying to escape.
I know,
man, how to beat the streets. So,
right.
But these are people who not from my background, and they're giving me this information. Like, one, we need you in New York City.
Yeah.
2, you're the person to be back in there.
Right.
And then 3, there's not that many black male educators. And once she hit me with those statistics, and she showed me articles of like the wonders that the mountains you can move when you're a black male in education. Right. And I said, you know what, let's do it. Yeah. So I'm in Coney Island, first year, boom. And my first year teaching, I'll never forget these 3 young boys. They looking at me up and down. They thinking they about to run me out of that class.
And like, what grade was this?
This is 5th grade. 5th grade math, 5th grade math. I'm at Coney Island, literally looking out the classroom window, I see the Wonder Wheel.
Right,
and I was fascinated with Coney Island because I'm like, how is it projects on the beach?
And lots of them. Lots of them,
That was interesting, but those are some young, tough guys. And the moment that I saw them and I seen them trying to misbehave and all that, I rolled up my sleeves and I got to work. And from that point, it started to work. They started to love school. Parents is coming to me like, yo, they love math. They doing homework now. I started coaching the basketball team, and then the accolades just started rolling in. Then I graduated. I got my master's degree, started getting a higher salary, apartments, cars, and I was off to the races after that. So one, it was the power of being in that position. And also I come from getting expelled from school. I come from getting in trouble. I come from losing my dad and not feeling seen and heard. So I already knew what they needed, or bad behavior, I already know what you need.
Right.
You don't gotta do all that stuff. Come on. You need a sandwich.
Right.
I don't care if you're talented. You making a team. You know what I mean? Because I know you don't have somebody like some of these other guys that got their father that'll come and talk to the coach and all that. And I remember coming with my mom and being embarrassed, like, man, I ain't got no dad to kind of like show me the ropes. So I was providing everything that I needed. Yeah. And I already knew this was going to work because all of these kids reminded me of myself.
Yourself.
So that's how I fell in love with education.
So let's dial back. You've mentioned several times, Ramel, that you lost your dad to violence. Now, recently, I acknowledged, I'm certainly not going to say celebrated, the 30th anniversary of the day that my father was murdered up in Boston.
Condolences.
Less than a mile away from my house.
Wow.
Because I'm from Boston originally. My dad's case is still 30 years later unsolved, still a cold case. We, as his family, have no clue who took my father's life or why. There are theories, but we don't know for sure. And I've said to people that have asked me on the 30th anniversary of my father's death, what is it like to lose a parent to such a violent way of death, to homicide? And I've said it's really no way to explain it. Losing a parent to cancer or a car accident or things of that nature is hard enough. But we're in a small club, Ramel. You and I are in a small club that neither one of us would certainly want to become a part of. You know what I mean? But I know that for myself, I've used my father's death over the years as a platform to give back in many ways. You know, going to Stop the Violence rallies and speaking out at youth violence events in different cities along the East Coast. First of all, let's talk about what happened to your dad, and then I want you to talk to me about how that inadvertently had something to do with where you are today.
Mm-hmm. So in October 1999, my father was a hip hop dancer. He danced in videos with Nealy, Put It In Your Mouth. He was in a video, The Bomb Baby. He was in that. He went on tour with Nice and Smooth. So he was in all of the videos. I watched the day he did Soul Train with Nice and Smooth.
Wow. And sidebar, I don't mean to interrupt you, but your mother is also a dancer.
Yep.
So you came from a pair
Hip-hop,
of dancers. Yeah, go ahead.
So
go
he
ahead.
was in, he performed with Curtis Blow on One Life to Live.
Wow.
So I watched all of these things. He met my mom at the Apollo, so that's how Brooklyn and Harlem meet. His dance group was called IBM, Intensive Body Movement. Shout out to IBM. They went to the Apollo to do like a performance, and my mom was a girl group from Harlem called the Gucci Girls, and they did like a competition thing, and he met her, you know, backstage, and boom, here you go, here you are. You know what I mean? So
for the love of dance.
Yeah, for the love of dance, for the love of hip hop, and I hear so many great things about him. He was a great dude, and the day that he passed, actually my uncle was DJing at the party. So imagine that, you know, my uncle was playing the music, and my father coming to party, lights go out as soon as he come in, and these dudes, you know, shot him. And from what I heard, it was some ladies that was having a problem with some guys, and the guys, you know, was talking a little reckless to the ladies, and they went to get him. And soon as he, you know, came, I guess he had some on them, and just tried to tell him, like, you know, just leave them alone, everything.
Right.
And that was the end of that. But he left the party for a while and came back. And as soon as he came back, lights go out, shots fired, you know.
And his brother was the DJ.
And his brother was the DJ.
Now, how old were you when that happened?
I was 8. I was in 3rd grade. Yeah, so I remember I started the book, that like the first, if you read the book, the first letters I wrote, and you know, you talked about the process, like that was the process. I'm on Microsoft Word. I'm like, you know, how I'm gonna get him like this, because this is where I feel like life started for me. I don't remember much about
Before
2
that.
and 3.
Yeah.
I remember 8, you know, because Dad, you know, he a dancer, he a live guy, he Brooklyn, he love hip hop. I learned KRS-One and all that from him. And when my mom's woke me up that day, like, you know, she had to break the news to me, like, your dad is gone. And I'm like, you know, what you mean? And she's crying more than me. I'm trying to tell her, calm down, like, talk to me, what's going on? And she said, you know, things happened. He got into a little, you know, scuffle, and it didn't even register until I'm at the funeral, kissing his cold cheek, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is what this is.
Because you're 8.
Right.
You're 8 years old. I was 24, but my brother was 9. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I remember my brother touching my dad's body and tugging on my pants. Keri, why is Daddy's hand so cold?
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to explain, you know, because you were the same age as my brother when he lost our father. And it's confusing at that age. You don't really understand.
But you start to when, you know, the weekends, my pops used to come pick me up on the weekends, and that's how I was in tune with my brothers in Brooklyn. That's how I was in tune with Brooklyn, period. Right. So that kind of slowed down a little bit. You know, a couple of weekends went by, and there's no more Brooklyn. So I'm just like, and that's when my mom started taking me back, because she realized, like, oh, I gotta do something about this. So she even started reaching out to my brother's mother, and they started putting it together, and I started going back out there, because that's when all the trouble in the school came.
And how did
expelled, all that stuff.
And fast forward, yeah, I imagine that, you know, as a young person, that definitely affected your behavior. Now, let's fast forward. How do you feel that your dad's loss influenced your successful post-college life?
That's how to beat the streets. Like, I feel like my dad, when I study his story, from what he was doing with dance, he actually just enrolled in college. He was a 5%, so he was in the 5% Nation, Knowledge Yourself, and I spoke to a few of them guys, and they was like, yo, your dad was on it. You know, he was getting right, but he had that battle with the streets.
Right.
So that's when it started to register, like, okay, my dad lost his life because of the streets. He didn't overcome, he didn't beat the streets.
Right.
So that was my duty from that point. Once I got a little bit of knowledge to like 16, that was my goal. I'm like, okay, I don't want to be in a gang. I don't want to sell no drugs. I don't want to do anything that's going to get me in prison or get me to, you know, have an early death.
Right.
So that was my mission from then. It was all about how do I overcome the streets. But I didn't have much. But all I did have was education,
Right.
school, you know, A's and B's, all my classes. And that was my gift. So that's when I just started using that. So I never played with school. Like even all my friends, they'll tell you, like I'm in the house, come home, do my homework, help my friends with their homework. I'm in the school, I'm reading, I'm joining the poetry contest. The teacher needs some help. Yep, I read, pick up where you left off. You ain't gonna get me stuttering. Like I love the education process, and that's the same thing happened in college. I got kicked out, but I came right back.
Good.
You're not closing this door on me.
Right,
I
you're
need
not
this.
closing
You
this
know what I
door.
mean? So
Right.
That's where I use his death as, okay, I'm gonna overcome the street life. I'm not losing to the streets.
Right.
And then it was nothing else. You know, outside of the streets, like even when I talk to young men, I'm like, if you take that away, what you gonna do?
Right, exactly. What is
There's
that?
nothing else to do besides school.
Exactly.
If you come from, like when I met my roommate, if you come from your dad got a company, your dad got a trust, then you got a bunch of options.
Right.
But for us, you take away the streets, we got nothing else going on besides school.
So let's circle back. We have 1 minute before we break. Let's circle back to how you are able to influence the students who you work with based on the experiences that you've had.
I mean, they could see it. You could see it right now. You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of it. Once I show up and I talk, like I'm talking about math, I'm talking about percents, decimals, fractions, but the way I show up is how I show up. So they understand the language, they understand how I deliver, they understand, you know, how I take the lesson and make it culturally relevant. So that's my big strategy in teaching. It's always making it culturally relevant. Quick story I'll tell you, young kid, his mom passed away mid-school year, and he's in my class. But
How old was he?
He's like 12, 7th grade, and he started going through it. So I couldn't talk to him because he used to get so angry and like quiet.
Yeah.
So one day I took the problem. The problem had the name James in it. I took the name James out and I replaced it with 50 Cent. And then the kids was like, who's 50 Cent? I'm like, I know y'all know 50 Cent from Power and all that, but 50 Cent is a young man who lost his mom at an early age. See what I'm doing? I'm connecting with him. He lost his mom at an early age, but he used that to fuel his rhyming, his marketing skills, and he took that and became a millionaire.
Wow.
And that's how I connect with students. Something small like taking out James, replacing him with 50 Cent, giving the background that go ahead and solve the problem.
Truly a phenomenal story, Ramel. We got to keep this conversation going, brother. So we're going to have to bring you back for a part 2, all right?
Sure.
So we'll be back with Ramel Nealy next week.
Sessions Cafe with your host, Keri D. Singleton.